I'm Holly Tucker, and welcome to my podcast, Conversations of Inspiration. Founder of Not on the High Street and Holly & Co., I'm the UK ambassador of creative small businesses. I believe that having a business doing what you love is the key to a happy, fulfilled life, and my dream is to help everyone start theirs. I'm here to offer advice, inspiration, wisdom, and encouragement. And in my view, the greatest way to do this is by sharing stories. So I've reached out to all my favourite small businesses, acclaimed entrepreneurs, and those who just simply inspire me, and asked them to share theirs. With thanks to our sponsor NatWest, who have helped bring this free podcast to life. Here are my conversations of inspiration.
Bow your head and let your eyelids close on down where we're going.
This week's podcast is a very special episode as I'm chatting to Richard Reed, CBE, founder of Innocent Smoothies and Jam Jar Investments. Richard founded Innocent back in 1998 with his two university friends who all quit their jobs to bring smoothies to the UK market. Initially operating from a market stall, the trio worked hard and grew the business into a creative and well-loved brand that had the courage to do things differently. Their brand grew to become the largest juice creator in Europe, and in 2013, Innocent was sold to Coca-Cola. Richard then went on to found his latest business, Jam Jar Investments, which is a venture capital fund which invests in companies including Deliveroo, Graze and Propercorn, with the same trio he's been working with for now over 15 years. Richard also set up the Innocent Foundation in 2004 and remains a trustee. The charity invests in food security, local food poverty, breakthrough developments and emergency hunger relief around the world. I had the complete pleasure of meeting Richard in his Jam Jar offices, where we chatted about his journey, building a world-famous brand, what it was like selling his business to Coca-Cola, and his complete passion for building businesses that utterly and truly give back. Hi, Richard. This is exciting. You're a complete hero of mine. Actually, you're a complete hero of so many people that I know. Innocent is one of those killer brands that I truly admire. It went against the grain. It was bold. It was funny. Your attention to detail is something that I still talk about to all small businesses that I mentor. Now we're sitting in your latest business, Jam Jar Investments, HQ, which is rather cool. Everyone listening can imagine it's
full of jam
cool.
jars.
Full of jam jars. And in each jam jar is something that represents one of your investments. In some of those jars, I saw Graze, Deliveroo, and I want to talk to you about this, if that's okay with you, in a bit. But to begin with, I just wanted to start and have the honour of hearing firsthand your story of Innocent, how it came about, going back to the very beginning, if you wouldn't mind, when you met at university.
Well, Innocent it's a story of friendship, actually. I met what became my best pals, Adam and John, at university. We bonded over there being a lack of nightlife. We were at Cambridge, and it seemed to be the principal evening activity was drinking beers in the college and singing rugby songs. And I was a guy from Huddersfield. I just hadn't come across this thing before. It wasn't my vibe. No judgment of it. It was like, that's not my kind of thing. What I was obsessed with at that point, because it was just at the advent of house music, was clubbing and DJing. And the only music being played in college at that time was Dexys Midnight Runners and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh God. But I found a couple of people that sort of felt the same way. We were like, well, why don't we start doing it ourselves? We never DJ'd before. We never put on club nights before. But if today you're doing it with a couple of other people, then it feels a lot less intimidating. So we started doing that, and we got... It became super popular. The nights we put on, it was a night called Please. And we DJ'd at it and organised it. And we just realised two things. One, as a team, we worked super well together. And secondly, it's even more fun being the guys organising it than being on the dance floor.
Yeah.
So we made a very sort of, I think actually a relatively sort of spiritually positive decision right there and then. We said, look, one day we will set up a business together, but its principal reason would be to have and build a life and a bus to drive on through that life with as three friends. And to me, it's the thing that I love the most about it. It was really ultimately an excuse for getting to hang out with my mates post college. And the idea for Innocent was in fact born of a hangover. We were on a skiing holiday, feeling grim one morning, but having the same conversations we'd had for 7 years now of, look, we said one day we were going to set up a business, and what would that business be? And we wanted something that was going to make life a little bit easier and better for people. And we wanted something, we realized we wanted something that we ourselves needed and wanted. And right then we needed and wanted something healthy, just to make up for the fact we felt so bad from the night before. And so the idea, that's why we'll do smoothies, because they're great and they're really healthy. And mum's always saying she should get more fruit, and all we ever seem to do is basically eat pizza and drink beer. So let's do that. And it was such a straightforward, simple idea. You buy fruit, you crush it, you put it into bottles. We could get our heads around it. And actually that is, I'm not trying to minimize it. We did do lots of research and write a business plan and all the rest of it. But fundamentally, the business started by us buying £500 worth of fruit and literally crushing it up and putting it into bottles. We made 1,000 bottles of smoothies and took them to a local music festival and set up a market stall at the festival. And it's a very simple stall. It was just some planks of wood over some bales of hay with the bottles of smoothie there. But the unusual feature of it was a big sign above it that said, should we give up our jobs to make these smoothies? And we had a bin that said yes on the front and a bin that said no on the front. And we asked people to buy the smoothies and vote with the empty bottles. And we made a commitment to each other that if at the end of the weekend the yes bin was full, we'd go in the Monday morning and resign. And we got to the end of the weekend and the yes bin was full. There was a few bottles in the no bin, and oh man, this was like 20 years ago. It was only about 7 years ago. Our parents confessed they were ones putting the bottles in the no bin because they were
I was
worried
going
about...
to mention that. I saw that.
Yeah,
You
but
saw-
it's true. It's true. And every time I say that publicly, my mum goes, oh, you've got to stop saying that. It makes us sound like unsupportive parents. But, you know...
But they were scared.
Yeah, they were. I couldn't love my parents more. They've just been like the gold standard in parenting. So they're only ever... My mum's just like perpetually worried and just wants to make sure everything's okay. And so it's quite a scary idea. My dad was a slightly more pragmatic thing. He said, well, are you sure it's fruit juice? I think it should be yogurt. So he had a sort of quite specific sort of dairy agenda.
Specific concern. Yeah,
I think it was
yogurts versus fruit, rather than actually your livelihood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a really weird way for your parental consent to come out. It's like, it's got to be yogurt. But anyway, we did do a yogurt one, but it didn't work that well in the long term. So it was the catalyst. We'd actually had this weird Monday morning because it was literally the very next day, and we'd all said we're going to resign from our jobs at 10 o'clock. I went to my boss's office, a guy called Jorian Murray. I stood outside at 9:57 on the Monday morning and thinking, what am I doing? I can't go and resign. I'm renting a house. This is the only money I get is the wage from here. I've got literally no cash. If I walk out of my job now, none of it makes sense. I've got no money to live from, so I sort of bottled it. And I went back to my desk and I called Adam and John, and they said, have you resigned? And I said, no. And they said, why not? And I said, well...
Had they at that time?
Well, that's what I said. Have you two? They went, no, we haven't either. So we all collectively, independently bottled it. So then we all said, okay, at 10:30, we're going to go do it. And then so we went back and we did. And then, there's just there's what's that hippie phrase about, once you commit, the universe provides. And I have to say, as I get older, I'm sort of starting really to believe in that. But also just in a very pragmatic sense, if you actually start doing it, then you've sent out the signal. It's going, I'm doing this. Then people are around you that, your friends and family, and just even people you meet randomly, they go, oh, you're doing that? Oh, no, I understand you're doing that. And then they might help. And I can't tell you the amount of unsolicited help that we got given. Because we say, oh, we're doing a juice company. People are like, oh, that's really interesting. Well, I know so-and-so that, makes orange juice. You want to speak to them? And I literally had people stop on the street as they would walk past and see me unloading the van, because there's a lot of loading and unloading the van. I go, well, mate, do you want a hand? Like just a random punters on the street helping. It's like, I love this country. I love our species. I love humans. It's like we're inbuilt. We want to help. And if you stand up and go, I'm going to do this, a lot of people go, good for you, mate. How can I help?
It's so interesting you saying that. And I think when we go back to what is quite a famous story of the bins and the yes and no and should I give up my job, someone gave you permission right there and then. You were asking for permission to take that moment. And if I speak to a lot of businesses now, it's this belief that there's this perfect moment. I always say it's like having a child, there's absolutely no perfect moment. And they're sort of waiting, they're holding back to actually take that step. And so I love that as just sort of an iconic story, which is, there you go, you asked two dustbin liners, bins, and people said yes and no. And that's just the permission you needed. Obviously, you could have made that decision without it, but it just helped knowing that people liked the idea.
Yeah.
And it was an indication, and that you could on 10:30 on the Monday morning give up your job. And I do try and push people to say, well, what would make you feel like you could give up your job? What could make you feel? And it's not necessarily a perfect business plan, money in the bank, the design ready, the logo, the whole thing. It's actually just the momentum of making that decision. And I love where you're saying that the universe provided. I wanted to touch on investment here, as it's one of the questions I'm most asked. The landscape is incredibly different now to when you started, even when I started. There are so many sort of routes now available to businesses. When you all decided to start Innocent, how did you literally start? After quitting your jobs, I presumed there had been savings, but from the sounds of it, there might not have been.
There was literally the last month's paycheck.
So the last parts of the paycheck. So how did you think that this was going to, where did you think that investment was going to come from?
I have to say, we were insane. We thought it would take 3 weeks from having resigned to be up and running.
Okay.
It took 18 months.
Yeah.
We were mad. We actually had absolutely no idea of how difficult it was. And if we had have known how difficult it was going to be, we definitely wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. The beauty of naivety.
The beauty of naivety.
Yeah.
That said, the counterpoint to that, though, is if we had have known then how much the next 15 years and then subsequent, having sold the business, my life now, how much it was going to be worth it to go through that brutal 18 months, then I definitely would have done it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But
Yep.
oh wow, were we unprepared for it? No, I mean I've got nothing clever to tell you. It was credit card debt. We were on the dole. I was on housing benefit, slightly faking it because you were supposed to be looking for jobs. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to create a business. And they're like, yeah, but that's not valid. I'm like, but isn't that better if I create a business rather than just... They're like, no, they were trying to get me to have a bar job in this pub in Fulham. I'm like, well, I can, but I'm trying to set up a business. And I think long term it's going to be better for everyone, including myself. But anyway, so we did that for a bit. But we got in debt. And that's the scary bit, because it's getting... The launch date is getting further and further away. And you're getting more and more into the red. And... yeah.
And why was it being pushed? So what were those parts, when I think about the audience that's listening, sort of, that building bits of building a business?
Yeah. Was
it literally, I need a bank account, we need, to be able to find the bottles for the juices, et cetera, et cetera? What was that difference of timeline?
Well, I think that we saw, obviously there's a lot to do with setting up a business. We saw there's three principal things. One, we need to raise money, because none of us have got any and we're not from rich backgrounds. Secondly, we're going to have to find someone to work with to make these things. So we're going to find essentially a factory that's going to go yes. And thirdly, we're going to need a brand, because it's, we're not trying to be running a factory and being an own label. We're creating something. So those are the three principal work streams. You think, 3 weeks will be fine, won't it? And what happened was we tried to raise money, and literally... I've never been on the receiving end of so many no's. It's just like everyone said no. We applied. There was a thing called the Small Business Loan Guarantee Scheme.
Oh, I remember.
Great government initiative. Love it. The idea is the government acts as the guarantor for a loan that a bank will make, so there's no risk to the bank, to fund startups of young people. We applied 20 different times to 20 different banks, got turned down 20 times. Like, on the 20th rejection, you go, okay, maybe that's the end of that path. And then people say you've got to go to venture capital firms, business angels. And again, I'm a guy, I genuinely, it sounds a bit naive, but I hadn't even heard the phrase business angel, venture capitalist, business plan. These are words I had not heard before. Now, fortunately, I'm doing it with a couple of guys that's smarter than me, and they're like, these people, and they invest, and they're like, okay, great. So you get the directory, and you just go through them, and you systematically go and approach every single one, and everyone said no. I remember one guy, we got a meeting, said, well, you score 0 out of 5 in the investor's handbook. You're too young, you've never done it before, you're trying to take on a massive industry, you've got no clear leader, and you're going to be threatened by the supermarkets if you ever get successful anyway. We're like, it's just a terrible idea. So we're going through all this and going, oh, right, that's slightly disappointing. And we realised after a year, I was like, God, we're nowhere. And we've got to the end of the directories. We went to this thing called the London Enterprise Network Trust. Brilliant organisation, puts you in the room as a young startup with loads of business angels that want to invest. We get our slot. It's half an hour pitching to a room of 50 people. Their whole reason of being there is to invest in a startup business. We do the presentation that we've been practicing for days. At the end of the presentation, we go to this room full of 50 potential business angels, go, and if anyone's interested, if they could just show their hand, and literally 50 people did not put their hands up. So you have to pack up your smoothies in your little bag and walk off stage, right? 0. So actually, the truth of Innocent is we did give up. We gave up, because we ran out of options, and then it was our flatmate who overheard us and told us this theory of Kevin Bacon, the actor, that everyone's only 6 stages removed from Kevin Bacon or something, and everyone knows someone. His insight was, you will know someone who knows someone who's rich. So we just sent out this email, and the subject line said, does anyone know anyone who's rich? And then we just spammed as many email addresses as we could get, spammed half of London with it. We got back a few responses. It was quite a funny email. Yeah? Does anyone know any rich? It gets noticed, it gets sent on. We got one from my ex-boss who confessed to be having an affair with a married tax exile who lived in Monaco, and she was prepared to send the business plan to him. He took a pass, but they had this great bit of gossip. And then the second one was like an old school friend from John's got in touch. They hadn't seen each other since they were 16, but he'd done work experience in the office of a guy that he overheard doing angel deals, and said, well, look, I can introduce you to this guy. I don't know if he's going to be interested. And that guy turned out to be a guy called Morris Pinto, who was an American guy. He heard the pitch. He said, I think it's a bad idea, yeah. And we were trying to raise 250,000, and he said, but I'll put in 50,000. And the good news is I'm the lead investor on a network of investors. We've done deals together for the last 20 years. If I put my money in, they follow with their money, so I'll get the other 200 from them. Great. And this is a whole new world to me. It's like, this happens, or this is like stuff in the movies. Anyway, we go back a couple of weeks later, and he goes, okay, for the first time in 20 years, they've all said no. They're not prepared to put the money in. They think it's a terrible idea. So I'll put in the extra 200,000 myself. Wow. Cut forward about 10 years later, this guy's telling this story to a room full of entrepreneurs that we were sort of doing a talk at, and somebody puts their hand up and said, did you put in the extra 200 because you thought it was a good idea, or out of a sense of obligation? He said, entirely out of a sense of obligation. I'm like, great. In my view, you've got to take whatever's going, But without him, definitely no Innocent. Without that stupid email, definitely no him. So I don't know. There's no secrets, is there? You can get lucky on your first go, or it might take you your 1,000th go. But I do think this, if you keep going and you're prepared to sort of try different approaches, not just necessarily banging your head in the same way, but just finding,
It's your
if you
spirit,
give in, you've given up.
It's your spirit. I mean, the thing here is that you didn't give up. I mean, you did give up at one stage, maybe mentally, but the passion, the energy was alive within you. And,
yeah. Well, what it was weirdly. I was kind of partly. There's the positive thing was, this is what the best advice I can ever really give to anyone is like, do it with some people that you love and trust, because you're doing it. 3 of us. No way would I've been able to do it by myself. I wouldn't have had the guts, and I wouldn't have had the skills, and I wouldn't have had the motivation to keep going with all the no's. But with the team of 3, someone's having a good day to compensate for the bad day, so you keep each other in the loop.
Into the loop.
Yeah.
And it's such an important lesson for businesses not to give up. And no matter how many no's, when you think about J.K. Rowling got rejected 12 times, right, before finding a publisher. Airbnb met with 15 angel investors, and not one single person was interested. And as you said, you scored this 0 out of 5.
I didn't.
Well, not you.
They did.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, it's a 5.
Yeah, not you.
You know what? Actually, I wasn't, mate, it was a 5. I was just like so scared and nervous. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
You're going in like presenting to some sort of like business sausage in a suit, your idea for a business. You think, with the whole thing we just made up anyway.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
I felt like validated. I felt my negative voices were validated by him going, of course not.
Yeah. If you believe in the idea, though, and that's what we're saying, and you think that it will actually benefit the world, there is this sort of other alternative energy that comes around you to make it happen. One of the most beloved, refreshing, and just bloody clever things about Innocent, and I'd say it's not really being rivaled today, is its attention to detail. The most genius but tiniest details that you barely notice, but when you do, it makes you instantly love the brand. For instance, you changed your use by dates to enjoy by dates, or on the bottom of the bottles, you had the line, "Stop looking at my bottom."
Yeah.
Where did this inspiration come from, and where did that tone of voice come from?
Oh, the tone of voice is just the three of us. It was really interesting. A friend of ours from college had sort of disappeared off to, I think they'd been to Thailand or something for 10 years teaching. Completely lost out of touch with them. And she was telling me this story that when she'd come back to London, she didn't know anything about any of this. And she's just out and she buys a bottle of juice. It's this company called Innocent. She drinks it and she starts reading it. And she thinks to herself, blimey, this really reminds me of Richard, Adam and John. I thought it was an amazing thing for her to say. It's just like, it was just our sense of
Wow, that's
humour. And we just had to
incredible.
think, like, we just never understood why businesses get all really pompous and sort of being all sort of, you know, like sort of greater than.
Yes.
It's like, what are you on about?
Grown up.
Yeah, we're just humans having a nice time basically, and just speak to people like you speak to your mates, minus the swear words. That's what we said. That was the sort of the mandate. But I mean, you know, and in a funny way, I think it really helped. It also delivered for me some of my single most favourite moments, like that thing about enjoy by. We got into a little bit of trouble for trading standards, but because you're not supposed to write enjoy by, you're supposed to write use by. So we had this whole like convoluted argument with them about if you don't actually use a fruit juice, it's the wrong word of the language. You don't use fruit. You know, you consume it and enjoy it anyway. So they were like, okay, fine. But then we used to do this thing which I knew was definitely naughty. We used to put fake joke ingredients on the labels. And then there was this one where, you know, it said on the side, 6 strawberries, 2 bananas,
Yes.
1 orange, and 2 plump nuns, right? It's not even funny, is it? It's just a bad joke. Anyway, I print this label, forget about it, it goes out into the... And anyway, I get this call, and I can't remember her surname, which is called Denise, and she worked for Kensington and Chelsea Trading Standards, and she rings me one day and goes, Mr. Reed, you know, we've had a complaint about this bottle, and it says 2 plump nuns in the ingredient panel. And I go, well, I'm terribly sorry, it's just our stupid sense of humour, but obviously no one's going to take it seriously. She goes, well, we're launching a formal investigation. And I remember thinking 2 thoughts simultaneously, which is, oh crikey, that sounds a bit serious, but oh wow, I just can't wait to see where this ends up. And actually where it ends up is I have to, there's written submissions, which isn't good enough. It ends as a formal hearing that I have to go to. And I'm not entirely sure it was actually technically a court of law, but I had to go to this room in the town centre where there's a set of 3 people sat behind a desk, and the guy in the middle is wearing a black gown, and there's a lady on a stenograph machine typing everything. So I'm putting my case for the sort of defence, and Denise is there putting the case for the prosecution. The guy in the gown sits there, listens to both, and he goes, okay, so he's going to retire to his room and consult with his colleagues and send me his written ruling. And about 10 days later, I get this letter, and it's my favourite bit of business correspondence I've ever got, because I open it. It goes, dear Mr. Reed, you must either take off the reference to plump nuns or start using them in your fruit juice. And I'm just like, oh, I love this. this is like, I'm so framing that.
I mean, that's going in the loo. Isn't
Yeah,
it? That's along with any
one of
other
my proudest days in business.
moments
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things. Yeah.
And I thought, fight the system.
Goodness, what a story! But it's what I love and truly admire. And as you said, the fact that you brought this fun, this human element to it. And I think a lot of businesses will start or continue, and I certainly know this, where you believe that if you're in business, somehow we go back to maybe what our fathers or our fathers' fathers, you know, it's the suit, it's the tie, it's the constraints, it's what should be. Whereas actually what you guys did was you connected with that customer. You actually said, well, this is my customer, we're going to connect. You called your offices Fruit Towers. And I mean, just for the fact that you called it Fruit Towers at a time where it wasn't all about beanbags and trendiness and Silicon Valley and all this sort of thing.
Yeah,
That
we started before they even existed.
Exactly. So you were the guys that did this. You were the place that people wanted to work. Your values were strong, but you also looked like you were having the best time too. And I think it was at a time where...
Can I just say,
yeah,
we really, really were. It was so much fun. I'm doing it with my 2 best mates. And the thing that we're building, and we had this internal phrase, which was, we take the serious bits seriously. You would not, to this day, find a company that was more committed to ethical sourcing, making sure everything is deeply healthy and nutritionally beneficial. We got our entire supply chain to go to green electricity. We gave 10% of the profits to charity. We made every single employee a shareholder, so there was wealth redistribution. That stuff, health, ethics, we were like deadly serious about that. But you can take all that stuff seriously without taking yourself seriously. And doing things with a bit of lightness and humour, yeah, sure. But it can't be at the expense of. But my view was, society kind of makes an assumption if you turn up in a suit and tie, you're a serious, credible person. And if you turn up in a T-shirt, you're not. I'm like, no, I think that's just a choice of whether you've got a weird piece of fabric around your neck or not. You know, it's your actions that count. It's what is it you're physically making, and what is the way you're making it, and what are you doing with the proceeds of having made it. That's what businesses should be judged upon. And I have to say, and I'm not trying to blow a trumpet, you screen innocent against those criteria, then I think we get big ticks.
Very big ticks. And it was at a time, and I'm going to talk about that, where this was not being done. You know, this wasn't being done. But just on a little fun bit, I was at a dinner party the other day, and someone still, and I remember in the past people mentioned this, just tell me about the banana phone. Just tell me that little bit of the story of what the banana phone was at Innocent.
Well, it was a banana phone. We just call the banana phone, but it's a banana. I mean, it is literally, look, no big deal. We found a plastic yellow banana phone down one of the tech shops on Tottenham Court Road. And like, oh, we've got to have that. So that was the consumer phone line. People would ring and you pick up the banana phone and speak to the consumer. Because it always said on the side of the bottle, either pop round to Fruit Towers or give the banana phone a call. And if I believe anything, congruency. You have to, what you think and what you feel has to match what you say and what you do. Innocent is in no way a perfect entity, but it was always that. There was a congruency. It was about nature, health, ethics, community. The way we purported to the world was the reality. And that's why we could have a literally open door policy to this day that anyone can go around to Fruit Towers and they will be welcomed in without an appointment to see it. Because it's your business as much as it's ours. You know, we are the customer is us. Without the customers, we're just some very strange people with a very expensive fruit crushing hobby. So it is entirely dependent on people buying the product. So why wouldn't you want them engaged? You have to listen to them and make sure that what we're doing is what they want. Otherwise, you're not going to have a business.
I wanted to interrupt this podcast with a Holly & Co. independent party message to implore you all to shop independent this Christmas. For over 15 years now, I've encouraged consumers to buy handmade or shop independent from a small British business, and I've decided that this will be my mission for the rest of my career. You see, it is such a passion of mine because I see firsthand where your money goes. Your money doesn't go into buying a CEO's super yacht or even into someone's city portfolio. It doesn't go into making the richest man in the world even richer. No, when you shop small, I've had the pleasure of watching exactly where it goes. Small homemade kitchen table startups or small independents on the high street take their profits that you create and turn that hard-earned money into a mortgage payment or a dance lesson for their little ones, a new studio to expand their business. I've seen their precious earnings help a sickly relative, create the ability to buy a first home, or maybe even that holiday that they could never have taken if it wasn't for your loyalty. Your money changes real people's lives because every time you spend your money with a small business, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. So let's support real people by shopping small. Let's put our money where our hearts are. Let's shop independent this Christmas. To find out how you can get involved, head to @HollyTucker on Instagram. You can also use the hashtag #CampaignShopIndependent or come and visit me at the Holly & Co. campaign headquarters, where you can join the creative campaigning and help spread this important message far and wide. Thank you all for listening.
I mean, I admire the brand so much, but one of the things that I absolutely loved was the tiny knitted hats. But seeing these tiny hats on your smoothies in the supermarkets, which you just didn't equate. Why am I seeing a innocent bottle?
Very disruptive in a funny way.
Very, very disruptive.
But in a really cute way, right?
But in such a smile on your face. And even better, these hats were donated by the public who sent them in. And for every smoothie you sold, you donated 25p to Age UK. And since 2003, I believe 7.5 million hats have been knitted, raising nearly 2.5 million. Am I right in saying that for Age UK?
Like, yeah. And, this is all just a guy in Innocent that's come up with this idea, goes, mate, I've had this idea, I'm going to get hats knitted by volunteers and we'll raise money for charity. And that's my eternal discredit. I went, mate, I don't think that's going to work. You're going to at least need to find a factory in China to make the hats. He goes, no, I'll get them all knitted by hand by volunteers. All you've got to do is commit the 25p per hat. And I go, well, that's easy, mate, because you're not going to get any hats, are you? Anyway, first year, 3,000 hats. Second year, 20,000 hats. Third year, 80,000 hats. 10th year, 4.1 million hats, all knit by volunteers all across the world. Insane. Innocent is the world's biggest producer of woolen hats. Admittedly, they're very small. It's like, how did that happen? We were supposed to be making fruit juice. We're the world's largest maker of hats.
Oh my goodness!
So
can't believe that.
I know.
But the fact is that you listened to that employee that came up with that idea.
You were allowed to just don't ask me for permission. You know that phrase, don't ask permission, ask for forgiveness. It's don't even ask for forgiveness. If you've got a good idea and it's in line with the mission and the values of the business, definitely try. Don't ask for forgiveness. How patronising! It's not wrong to try and do something great for the business. So we would celebrate the successes, we would celebrate the failures. We made a big thing out of celebrating people that were prepared to stop things. Because you do need to be able to start things, you need to also have the confidence and the maturity to stop things when it turns out that one's not working. That's okay, so we're going to try another thing and that might work. And so celebrating the no's, celebrating the yeses, celebrating the wins, celebrating the failures. Because what really drove Innocent's success fundamentally was, of course, the team. You win in business long term, not through your IP and not through your capital base. You win long term if you attract and retain and develop and motivate the best talent. We always look for what I call two twin jet engines, altruism and ambition. And you wanted it in equal measure. You get too much ambition and not enough altruism, you just become a sort of slightly, unpleasant person. If it's all altruism and ambition, it's great, come buy our stuff, but actually we need to grow a business because we want to make, get lots of healthy products out there and make money and get some for charity. So twin engine, altruism, ambition, it's a really lovely mixture. And I think that's what Innocent's got.
You hardwired this into your business at a time where you were one of the first people, I would say, to do this. Whereas today, let's say, we talk about being consciously consuming. We are talking more than ever about our issues with plastic. We're talking about balancing profits with purpose. Where do you think that came from you guys? You wanted your time in your business to have positive impact before you could even pay the rent.
Absolutely.
So tell me where you think that came from.
Well, I think what's really interesting is it's actually in all three of us. It's not like it was just me or just Adam. There was never any debate from the beginning. As you say, these sort of elements were at least, some of them were there, some grew. For me personally, I think it's just upbringing. I grew up in a small village in Yorkshire. Every year there was a thing called the Upper Hopton Gala, and the community would come together. The dads would build the stalls and the mums would bake the cakes. And sorry, gender stereotyping, but this is Yorkshire in the 1970s. It was like that. And there'd be like tombolas and you'd raise money. And oh my God, we loved it. Kids in the village. And so I got a real sense of community. I got a sense of raising money for charity. My mum started my entrepreneurial flywheel going just when we were walking around Huddersfield one day, and there's a stall for Greenpeace, and it's showing these horrific photographs of dolphins being slaughtered, and it had the effect. Me as a I think it was 8, viscerally upset by it. I was quite a sensitive kid actually, and I was like, it's like how, and you just as a kid, you kids of course.
How on earth?
Well, yeah, and kids are the soothsayers, right? They just see things that is like, why is that happening? And what can I do? And she says, well, you could raise money. Or how do I raise money? So we could have a jumble sale in the village, go around and ask. So my mum suggested me going and knocking on doors. You got any old jumbles, and had a jumble sale in our garage. I think £11.83 we made. Not bad. Got in the Murfield Reporter, our local rag. There's a picture of me with the this, when you get those massive charity checks, it was £11.83. So, but I'm 8. So, not too bad, I guess. I learnt then you can change stuff, you can do stuff, you can start stuff. I don't know if my mum hadn't suggested that, if I hadn't seen that Greenpeace thing, probably not sat here today, Also, I actually credit quite a lot to my bigger sister. She's as big a hippie as you can get. She lives off the grid, no mobile phone, won't have a bank account. Kids given birth doing a teepee in the back garden with Native American chanting music. But she is like, one of my friends described as a hug manifested as a person. She's just so loving, sees the positive in everything, and it's just like having that just 18 months older than me, just this constant sort of loving, and actually a very perceptive sense of things aren't quite what we see. I remember when I started Innocent, she sent me this magazine clipping from one of her sort of crazy hippie magazines. And it said that all cars on the road today could run on vegetable oil. It's just the oil companies don't want you to know that. And she sent me this thing, and I remember thinking, I feel sorry for my sister. She's so naive. She thinks that's actually true. 10 years later, I'm literally outside Fruit Towers with these massive tubs of vegetable oil, tipping them into our vans going, it's true, they can. So sometimes I always thought the hippies are actually the people that are ahead in society, saying this is where it's going, this is what we need to be aware of, this is the stuff that's great, this is the stuff that we should be trying to reduce. And so I'm a big fan of organisations like Greenpeace. They are sort of lobbying, they are the grassroots marketing organisation for Planet Earth, saying, because all the people in suits, they'll go, no, we're not. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. It's fine. No, those chemicals are safe. It's like, no, they're not, mate. So we need the hippies to sort of ring the bell.
You look back at that influence that might have been in your home, and you actually think that subconscious was absorbing
I'm aware of it, yeah.
And so now looking back, you can connect those dots. But before we talk about your latest business, you had a huge, monumental success with Innocent. From an outside perspective, it can often seem like an overnight success story. But my aim with this podcast is to bring to life the amount of utter sheer hard work, the complete shitstorms that have to be dealt with, battled through to grow a brand, and to talk honestly about the huge ups and the monumental downs. You had a very hard year in 2008 with the global crisis. Could you talk a little bit about that and what kept you actually strong and able to get through that time?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because the reality is the first night we started Innocent in 99, and 99 to 2007, essentially everything worked. Stressful because everything's growing so quickly, but we didn't have any bad luck. And then 2008, it was like the 10% bad luck you'd get each year that had been not incurred, accumulating with interest, and you go, here it is. It's like, wow. So suddenly our sales collapse by 30% in 3 months. So we're declining by 10% a month for 3 months. We have previously forecast that we're going to grow by 40%, but we've declined by 30%. But because of our industry, you have to buy all the fruit contract year in advance. So suddenly now we're sat on £16 million worth of fruit that we no longer need. We've been employing people for a business growing by 40%. It's now minus 30%. By the way, for the first time ever, we borrowed some money from the bank the year before, set against our profit and revenue targets, which we've already smashed, which we've now completely failed to meet. They want the money back. We don't have it. You read the detail of the paperwork. Oh, they now get to be the legal owners of the business if we don't pay them back the money. All this is going on at the same time. And then our supplier that makes 100% of our products on a daily basis, because they're fresh and you juice and bottle them, ship them every single day, calls us at 1 p.m. on a Friday and go, we're really, really sorry. We wanted to tell you this before, but legally we weren't allowed to. As of 5 o'clock this afternoon, we're going into receivership. This is the last time we'll ever be making smoothies for you. And we're like, what do you mean? Because you are our entirety of our business system. And you go, so yeah, you were saying shitstorm, sandstorm. It was like, and that was all just sort of happening simultaneously. It was like, wow. Now, you said, what our fortitude got us through it. The truth is, we didn't know what to do. for the first few months of the sales going down, where there was a denial. It's like, oh, it'll get better next month. It'll get next. And so we didn't act early enough. The consequence of us not acting early enough meant we had to lay off more people when we did do it. So I can blame the external circumstances, and that was what precipitated the issue. But there's a failure of myself of not reading the signs quicker enough and acting quick enough, and more people lost their jobs than they needed to. It also showed me the unbelievable benefit of having people in your team smarter than you, and to a certain extent with some more experience than you, because that thing about because the reduction in sales, that's like a slow death. The supply going out of business is, that's it, done. 4 hours to go. We had one guy in the business who was a bit older than us. We brought in, he was our supply chain guy. He knew what to do. I swear that guy saved our business. A guy called Steve Spall, he saved our business. We didn't. Well, I didn't know what to do. I can make some funny jokes with a label, but that's not quite what we need right now, is it?
No,
he managed to orchestrate through that. Like, wow, thank you.
You got through that time.
We got through that time. But here's the thing, right? What it did do, and it's a cliche, but wow, did it make the business better?
Made you stronger.
Made us
resilient.
leaner.
Yeah, leaner, yes.
I remember there was this thing, I love the culture at Innocent. So positive, so much fun, so many social events. And we actively organised countless nights out for the team. It was really brilliant. We even had someone that over time, their role became 100% they were employed just to organise parties for the business. That's a signal. The ultimate signal is that after one of the big nights out, she presented me a genuine full leather-bound photo album of some of the photos the night before, and on it there is a gold-encrusted coat of arms that she's had made like for Innocent, like there's an orange in it and a bottle of smoothie, and I'm thinking that's the sign. It's like when you've got someone employed full time to develop leather-bound, gold-encrusted photo albums of your nights out, you've lost track of what's important. I'm all for the fun
yeah, of course, but that was just hit that nerve where you thought, right, okay, maybe this is
we've become one of those companies.
Yeah, so you
back to basics.
Back to basics.
Is it natural? Is it healthy? Is it affordable? Does it look great on shelf? Let's do that.
It's interesting because you had this. I mean, it's probably undescribable the stress that was going on in the external world, not only in your internal world, but just it was carnage. And you saw your way through it. From that point...
Well, I think we saw, as you said, it's a sandstorm.
Yes.
We felt our way through it with some fantastic guidance by people that knew the path a little bit better than we did.
And from that moment, Coca-Cola came into your lives in that period of time. You then...
Well, actually, Coca-Cola had been trying to come into our lives since our second year in business.
Wow.
Second year in business, they ring up and they go, hey, we've seen the products out on shelf. We love the brand. We love the philosophy. Are you looking for investment? We were like, no, thanks, no thanks. And each year, just once a year, they make the phone call. Go, hey, just calling, see how's it going. Just let you know if you're ever looking for investment. We're like, no thanks. Cut to 2008. We're now millions of pounds in debt. The bank's about to foreclose on us. I mean, they go, hey guys, and I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be great actually. It's like, oh my God, were we keen to talk to them? I mean, we ran a whole process, but it's like,
if you think about that, you say 2 years in, they made that call, and you think for 18 months you had received more no's in your life than ever before, and from that point,
we had Coke and Unilever trying to invest.
Yeah, so you had 24 months later from all of those no's, from being at the point where you were feeling the most craziest stupid person on planet Earth to have created this idea. 24 months later, you have Coca-Cola knocking at your door. And it does show you, doesn't it, that this complete opposite ends of the spectrum can happen. That can actually happen. And
for most people's first business, it tends to be like that, doesn't it? It's like, it starts with, of course not. Mm-hmm. But if you keep going, and going back to this earlier point, what kept me going? Yes, the team, firstly, absolutely. But secondly, it was the yes and no bin test. Because I did know this. It was the thing that kept us saying, it's like, but customers like it. Mm. So the VC guys are telling me why it won't work. And the manufacturers, by the way, are also saying, no way, that's not how to do it. Everyone's giving me all these intellectual reasons, but I know it tastes delicious.
The most important people.
Yeah. the most important people
Are
who
telling
didn't
me-
know us. It
Yeah.
wasn't like me asking my mum and dad. It's like it's 1,000 people that don't know us paying full market price and going, yeah, oh, that is
Yeah.
amazing. I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't tried that before. I'd love that. Where can I get it from? That's what you hold on to. It can't just be your own belief. I think there has to be evidence. Consumers want it.
So you made that phone call to Coca-Cola. Thank goodness
No,
they
they
called.
made me-
Yeah,
like,
thank God they
yeah,
called.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
hey, pop over.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a smoothie you might be able to try.
How's half an hour's time?
And, and it's been documented and people have spoken about the innocent Coca-Cola deal. And it's something I wanted to touch on and then moving on. But the sense of, well, what do you do with a business? Yes, you can grow it until you're 60 years old, 70 years old. But ultimately, as entrepreneurs, you did something to change the world in your own way. You have an opportunity to then let it take its next stage. And you chose that. It happens to be Coca-Cola, who probably know exactly what they're doing when it comes to drinks, et cetera, and a global brand. How did you feel about that time? Because there is this sort of outside perspective of, oh gosh, selling out. But
Yeah.
you want to say to someone, well, to start with, that entrepreneur who got a billion no's, if they can say, you know what, I can say to myself that I'm going to be relatively okay for these 15 years I've killed myself, I'm going to be relatively okay for the rest of my life. Would anyone else say no? Secondly, if you can put it into a position, that business into a position where actually it can take on that next stage of its journey, again, would anyone say no? So I think if you put yourself in actually the shoes of those three guys that just built a brand, would you say no? And I'd love just to hear that perspective of what that time was like. And was it a sad period of time, an emotional period of time?
Well, the 2008 was a scary period of time. The doing the deal with Coke, what it actually, the situation precipitated a need to raise some money, right? It's that straightforward. We owe millions of pounds. We don't have it. The bank's going to foreclose if we don't pay it back. We need some cash. How are we going to get cash? You've got to sell a bit of the business. And that's the
Pretty black and white.
pretty black and white. So we run a process. We appoint a person who's running the process. We launch the prospectus for investing in the business on September the 14th of 2008, the day that Lehman Brothers goes under. And I remember the guy, our advisor, going, congratulations, guys, you're starting a fundraising process on the worst day in financial history. What actually happened was really indicative. Most of the big companies, because by that point, every single big company in the past had contacted us to say they wanted to invest. Most sort of came in to hear the plan, but didn't actually offer. A load of VCs that the previous year had been massively positive about the business. They came in and heard the sort of the pitch and put in brutal offers. One was subject to stopping paying the 10% of profits to charity and paying to them as a dividend. Another one was us forgoing shares and becoming sort of managerial with them giving the right to fire us, and brutally low valuations. Coke's view was this, you're having a bad year, but we've been through 2 world wars and 3 depressions. It'll come back. We fundamentally believe in the brand and the philosophy. And they were like, yep, straight away sign up to the principle. The profits continue to be paid to charity. Loved the idea that all the employees were shareholders. The fundamental values that we believed in, we just saw were going to be enhanced more than anything. And our mission was not to stay small. Our mission was to get as many natural, healthy and ethical drinks to as many people and places as possible and raise money for charity in the meantime. They were a very safe harbour to go to, and one that we've to this day have a fantastic relationship with. Their one condition on buying a small bit of the business is that at some point in the future they could have the right to acquire all of it, because otherwise their view was, well, what are we going to do with a bit of a juice business? But wow, what a deal, because in return for buying that small bit, they also not only committed to sort of honour all the sort of the things that we kept full control until the day that we left. Quite amazing.
That is amazing.
We had a sort of a deal with them that we could, at some point, at our choice in the future, decide a date when we were going to sell our shares. And we could do some in a few years, some a bit later. There was a point where Coke owned 56% of the shares, so the majority, and we still had entirely full operating control of the business because we'd separated out votes from...
Quite unheard of, huh?
I think...
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of it. Again, massive credit to our lawyers, Paul Chappie and Phil Gilson-Wilson. They made us twice as rich as we would have been. But as importantly as money, we kept control of our business. And of course, the guy that did the deal, who's now actually the global CEO, James Quincy, is obviously like the smartest guy in the room. He knew if you're going to fiddle with it, you're going to ruin it. So it's like, back them, let them get on with it. And so actually now Innocent, since that was done in 2008, the business was turning over about sort of 110 million. It's now doing about 400 million. It's launching in Japan, it's launching in China. So our secret crazy dream that we never dared show because we thought it was so unlike to the point of it's just naive to think about it, that one day Innocent would become this sort of global juice brand. Well, it's already now the biggest juice brand in Europe and has been for a couple of years. It's now on track to be the global one. It's Coke's go-to brand for every market outside of the US.
Isn't that amazing?
For me, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
But again,
I feel teary you saying that. That's just.
And Douglas, the guy that's running Innocent now, is a guy that we worked with for 7 years. It's like no one lost their job when we sold to Coke. No one came from Coke to do a job. It was an entirely innocent takeover of Innocent. It's all our existing board members. Everyone got promotion. Everyone got some money. It's just such just a beautiful moment for everyone all around. I got 2 days ago a picture of him. Thought you'd like to see this. And it's the picture of the Innocent office in Tokyo. It's the same office, just decked out with AstroTurf, with a group of people, doing the Innocent thing, getting natural healthy drinks.
It's just amazing.
It was super fun.
Just
and now we get to go to the launch party.
Yeah.
I don't have to do any work. It's like, oh my God. I know it's
Very
cheesy to say. I just feel like the luckiest guy. The luckiest guy.
I love the story that when
we nearly lost it all.
I know you nearly lost
4
it all.
4 hours.
Yeah, and now you worked your socks off. You had that belief, but the day that it all.
To be honest, I don't think I had the belief. I didn't think it was going to work. The belief was it's definitely not going to work. No, definitely the belief is it's not going to work, but it's still worth a go.
Yeah. Okay.
We had our 5% probability event, which is one day it becomes this international. I had this really weird thing that. And it sounds incredibly specific, but I had this vision that one day it would be this international business, that the corner of the office where I sat the walls would be made of glass, like the exterior walls, and Bill Clinton would be speaking in our office. This is what I'm thinking in 1999. I'll show you out there. I've got the picture of me and Bill in Fruit Towers next to the world's biggest Innocent bottle. I thought, well, if I'm going to get Bill Clinton, I'm definitely going to get the product shop, me next to him. And we moved into a new office in 2008, and I look, and I didn't assign.
You're going to say let's get a corner gut.
And I didn't even assign my seat. I left it to the facilities manager. Turn up one day, I'm like, oh, that's really weird because that is definitely a glass corner thing. It's like
the vision.
The letter to the universe. You know that thing.
You left Fruit Towers by boat along the canal and you started Jam Jar Investments on the Monday morning, I hear. What was that first day like for you? Did you think, I'm just going to do this again?
The conversation broadly goes something like this. Oh, sorry. What I did want to say about the Innocent thing is, if I had been the guy that we nearly were within 4 hours of having built this thing, it going wrong, and then losing everything, being shown the door, that would have been unbelievably traumatic. We left it in rude health on our terms with a great payoff for us and everyone involved. We didn't walk out feeling we've got to do all that again. We walked out going, right, well, we definitely need somewhere to hang out during the day, don't we? Adam and John already had kids.
Other halves are seriously not going to
they already had kids, you see, because they're like, mate, we can't stay at home. We're going to get involved in childcare. So we're like, okay, so we just got this childcare avoidance centre. So we're going to find a nice place. What are we going to do in it? Well, does anybody want to start a business? Not really. It's really hard work. So we'll do investing. It's definitely much easier. So that's what we do.
And the driving force behind starting Jam Jar, the sort of philosophy in what you look for, because I've recently spoken to a few people on this podcast. So Edward Parry from Cook, he's just become a B Corp corporation.
Yeah.
And I hear that Innocent actually has become a B Corp corporation.
It has, yeah.
I'm noticing more and more the fact that business can be this power, this force for good. At Holly & Co, we call them the good life companies, where they can balance the idea of happiness or profits with doing good or being good. You said, I like businesses that are genuinely improving things, finding better solutions to old problems. Business really is the economic engine that drives society, but that's not enough. It should be making money and that and is key. Do you apply that to your investments when you look for prospective investments here at Jam Jar?
The short answer is yes. Yes, we do. But we're also conscious of we are never going to try and force our way of thinking onto someone else. I mean, good luck trying to get an entrepreneur to do things that they don't want to do anyway. But yes, we just wouldn't have invested in Wonga. We want to invest in businesses that our belief is, for both sort of commercial reasons and sort of spiritual reasons, that just in the business of creating little moments of joy. And it sounds a bit pretentious to say it like that way, but they are little granular moments of joy when the sort of the thing that the business does the job well and the product well, and it's a positive thing. And I'm a big believer in just back the stuff that's good for everyone. Good for shareholders, good for society, good for the customers. If you approach it, it's not just about the money, then I find life gets so much more interesting. And it's a really nice way to filter, because you have to filter, because there's a billion ideas out there. So you've got to find out what's our patch. Well, our patch is that, we're going to invest in businesses that make money and contribute in addition to that.
And you make great investments. I mean, they're all in my house. Deliveroo for my son Harry is far too many times in our household. Tails, my Mr. Mudley, who's my boarder, is in love with it. Grays, which comes to our office, etc., etc. So entrepreneurship, what you now are seeing, so you are an entrepreneur, were a famous entrepreneur starting up Innocent. You now invest in entrepreneurs. So you're on the sort of other side of the table. And when we look at sort of the demeanour here, I would say in the UK, it was interesting, Johnny Bowden and Wilfred, who founded the Black Farmer, mentioned it, this sort of, when they've gone to America, this sort of American dream mentality, and how they feel that we're held back as us Brits. We're held back in some way. What have you seen? And would you believe in that, or do you agree in that statement? Or do you feel that the age of entrepreneurship is upon us, and that actually it's never been easier to be an entrepreneur? You look back to when you started, Richard, and it's very different to today. But that spirit, has that spirit changed?
When I was a kid, right, the archetype of a businessman or entrepreneur was Arthur Daley.
Yeah.
Right? Arthur Daley off Minder, or like Del Boy.
Del Boy, yeah.
It was seen as a slightly dodgy thing, businessman, entrepreneur, a bit dodgy. I think society just evolves, doesn't it? But there are things, I think Branson made a massive difference personally. Mm-hmm. Branson, in my world, is the first guy that made business cool and hip and sexy and countercultural and fun and different. To a certain extent, he gives you the license. He's underwritten a license for the entrepreneurs to do it with a bit of joy. And, Innocent ultimately is not original. Innocent is we've stolen 1,000 different ideas, as I said, from Upper Hopton Gala via Patagonia, the company that does the 10% of profits to charity. We steal everything and then we repurpose it and make it our own. And I just think that there's just never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. And wow, there's never been more need for it. Because entrepreneurs are the yeast through which society grows its bread. It's how change happens. It's how things are better. And entrepreneurship, I don't mean just in a literal business sense. I mean being entrepreneurial, taking on a problem, solving it, wanting to make things better, collaborating, come to understand this about the world. If we want a good future, we're going to have to learn how to share in it a little bit better. And entrepreneurship is what I love about it, and it's what I love about investing, actually. It's a deeply collaborative bit of the world. There's so much more opportunity for entrepreneurs if there's already lots of successful entrepreneurs. Same with investing. Much better to invest alongside another investor than I don't want to, I want it all. It's like, no, much better to have a wider set of talents and experiences sat around the table. Yeah. I think you can do it now at any age. I get really excited about 15-year-olds doing it. You see that 7-year-old kid is Google's number one income earner. Raise Toys or something? It's like
the reviews of the toys.
So you can. By the way, age 7, I was selling jars of perfume in inverted commas, which were actually in jam jars, funny enough, which was just with rose petals and water at 2p a go. So I think
same.
Similar. You could say in symmetrics he's doing slightly better. But then I know of 70-year-olds starting businesses. It's for everyone. It's the equal opportunities employed.
It's like a state of mind rather than anything else. It's a state of mind. Whereas before we used to look at the who you were, what you were, etc., and then allow you to do it or not. Whereas now it's a state of mind, and we have that incubator now, which is us as society. Yeah. Recognise it, we support it far more.
We literally crowdfund it. That wasn't a thing. It literally didn't exist 15 years ago.
Don't we wish that was a thing at some point?
We wish that was a thing. a thing.
I wish social media and crowdfunding had been a thing.
I know.
I could carry on forever and ever, but I know you've got a lot of things to get going with. A couple of last questions that I ask everybody at the end of this podcast, because I believe that running your own business is like one scary roller coaster. Can you tell me what one of your greatest highs has been so far in your career?
The best moment, actually, of Innocent, for me personally, and I have to say I'm dealing with an unbelievable, massive buffet of fantastic moments. It wasn't all fantastic. There was bits that were stressful and where I felt out of my depth and all that sort of stuff. And you know what? And this is going to sound really self-aggrandizing, but it's not my intention. But I have been awarded on national television by the current serving Prime Minister a trophy saying the greatest British business person, right? That's definitely not the highlight.
Wow.
It's definitely not that.
That's
all
pretty cool.
All those things you think, I've got it, see what I did there getting into the... Right. Here's the highlight. And it's insane, really, but if I'm being honest, this was my favourite single moment. It was about 8 years in. We have decided to run our very first TV advert. We haven't employed an ad agency. We've written a little advert ourselves and filmed it down the park with a friend who was a film student. It was a little simple stop frame animation of a little innocent cartoon waddling onto the thing, going, hello, we're innocent, we make smoothies, and all these figures, and it goes pop, 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 pop. So we're in the editing suite. It's late at night. We're putting it all together, and there's the final bit where a strawberry disappears, and we want a ping. And working with the sound engineer, who's going through all these recorded pings, and they're just not quite right. I've got my hippie mate in the background who's actually just waiting for me to finish so we can go out, and he goes, yeah. In a way, as if this is completely known to him. He goes, yeah, the problem is, mate, you haven't got the right chakra. You need to choose the chakra and then get the right note for the right chakra. I'm like, right.
And do you
Heart
have
chakra?
Heart chakra. I am never
Hell
forgetting.
yeah.
I didn't know it had an actual tone. But
Neither did I till then. But this guy's like, well, yeah, obviously,
Of course, it's a G.
the sky's blue, chakra heart's G. It's probably not even G. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Apologies to all chakra musicians if I've got the G. Maybe it was a C.
And the opposite to that, Richard, has been one of your lows?
Well, there's no contest in that one. That is standing in front of the team on the Monday morning. We had a Monday morning meeting every single Monday for 15 years, 9 a.m. My job was always to start the business day by introducing the new starters. And this was the incredible thing about Innocent. It was like there was literally at least someone every week starting. And we'd go, this is new, and say a few fun facts, introduce them to the business. There was 1 week where I'm standing there going, we're really sorry, this is the situation, the business is in turmoil, at least 10% of you are going to be losing your jobs. That's the worst bit. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't mean for me, I mean, on behalf, it's sort of, because as I said, that's our fault. But, it was also the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. It would have been, we should have done it sooner better, but we'd never experienced that before. We did it in the right way. Everyone left with as generous a settlement as we could do at the point. We had the Christmas party on the Friday and every single person came. So there was people got it and understood it. And
Thank you tremendously, Richard, for our conversation today. I've really...
I love it. It's like I feel like I've therapized.
Oh, I just can't tell you. You're, as you said, you were on that TV getting that award. And I think that's how people look at you. You're the poster boy of how to build a famous brand. But I think
this is the great irony, isn't it? Me and Adam John get all the public credit. It's like, but there's 300 people doing the work. Insane, really.
It is. And you've made that very clear in this interview. But you have obviously a fantastic heart. You're a force of good. Innocent is as a beloved brand, and it certainly makes us all proud. And it will be a real highlight in my career to be sitting here with you. So thank you so much for your time.
I've really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.
Every week.
Use NatWest. Good, isn't
yes,
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Every week I ask my guests, though, to write a letter to their younger selves. And I savour this bit because it's a little bit that I don't know about. And I can't wait to hear yours, Richard. So I hand it over to you.
So I think I'm writing this to my around about my 11-year-old self.
Okay.
Mate, I have to tell you, you're going to love it. Your life. I know right now you're feeling lonely and upset. But it turns out this period of having no friends, of running around the playground, looking at your watch, pretending you're late for meeting someone to make it look like you have friends, is temporary. Like everything, it will pass. And if you continue to endure the discomfort and put yourself out there, it will pass more quickly. You are by nature an open, friendly, thoughtful, loyal and adventurous person. And you'll discover that those qualities over the longer term will gain you many friends. And the sadness you're feeling now will actually become an asset to you, as it will add empathy to that list of characteristics. Becoming an entrepreneur will be the making of you. You've sensed that ever since your mum suggested you organise a jumble sale. Continue to start stuff, initiate, share, collaborate. Your daydreams of starting a business will come true. But in the meantime, you'll work your socks off at your exams. I know it sucks that your mates are down the pub, I think it's when I'm a bit older now, and you're sat in a caravan in your driveway revising, but it's a deal that pays off. You realise as you get older there's a decade for everything. Teenage years for learning, 20s for partying, 30s for working, and your 40s for family. And that will be your best decade yet when you become a father. It'll be later than you expect, but worth the wait. And the freedom you have from having started and sold a business means you'll have time and the kind of life that allows you to spend lots of time with them every single day. That is going to make you very, very happy. You also learn not to care about what others think. Not in a callous way, you'll remain thoughtful and generous to others, but you will have learned to ignore the negative voices in your head. They're talking horse shit. Do everything for positive reasons. Your only regrets are going to be when you acted or didn't act out of fear. Fear-based thinking gets you nowhere. Sure, why not thinking gets you much further. Oh, and while you're single, kiss as many people as possible. If you're kind and honest and respectful, there's no harm in it, and it's one of the greatest pleasures in life. Enjoy all, mate. Even the shit bits. It's all proof of being alive. I literally nearly cried about 5 times.
You know, it's what's just amazing, Richard, is that what you touched on there is what so many people forget, is that, you know, we build businesses, you sold businesses, you invest in businesses, but one of the greatest moments of your life is having that family, having that life that you've created, and actually running your own business and being in control of your destiny allows you to fully appreciate how beautiful that is. And it's just wonderful that that's one of your moments. And I think it is. We all can't forget that. But Richard, thank you so much.
It's even better than the ping of the strawberry.
Well,
and I can't say more than that.
Richard, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna hug.
Massive hug because I want to cry.
This is a podcast hug.
Thanks, NatWest, again for sponsoring this podcast. It's great to partner with an organisation that believes in empowering people in business. That's why they developed the NatWest Business Hub, which is full of information, tips and insights to help business owners meet their goals. Go to natwestbusinesshub.com to get started. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Conversations of Inspiration. I want as many people as possible to believe that they can build a business doing what they love. So could I ask a favour? If you like what you're listening to, would you rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify or your favourite podcast provider? It will help others find this podcast and may just be the inspiration they need to follow their dreams.
Bow your head and let your eyelids close on down. Where we're going, you won't need to bring your frown. You will find that all the things that I have said will come to when you are lying in your bed. And if you want your friends to come